The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers and clattered against the hull of my fishing boat. 3 a.m, and I was still out here in the marina, avoiding an empty house. My name is Rowan Kerrick, and I fix things for a living: marine engines, dock equipment, anything that breaks down in this weathered coastal town on the Chesapeake. Too bad I couldn't fix my marriage. Lana had been gone for 8 days now. 8 days of silence, no calls, no texts, nothing. Just Mia, our 17-year-old daughter, giving me those accusatory looks every time I asked where her mother was. "She's with someone who actually gets her, Dad," Mia had said earlier that evening, her voice dripping with teenage contempt. "Mom's not your property." Property. As if 20 years of marriage meant nothing more than ownership papers. I wiped my hands on a rag and stared out at the dark water. This town had 2 faces: the gleaming yachts of lawyers and developers on one side, the rusted crab boats and working-class bars on the other. I'd always been firmly planted in the latter, even after marrying Lana. She was the ambitious one, the real estate attorney who climbed her way up from nothing. I was just the guy who kept the boats running. The marina creaked around me, old wood and rope singing their familiar song. I'd grown up here, learned my trade from my father before he passed. Honest work, he'd called it. Work that left your hands dirty, but your conscience clean. My phone buzzed, a text message. "Coming home tomorrow, we need to talk. L." I stared at those words for a long moment, then deleted the message. 20 years, and she couldn't even sign it with love. The next morning, I was nursing coffee at the kitchen table when Lana's BMW pulled into our driveway. Through the window, I watched her sit in the car for several minutes, checking her makeup in the rearview mirror. She looked good, too good for someone who'd supposedly been visiting her sick aunt in Richmond. The front door opened with its familiar squeak. I'd been meaning to fix that hinge for months. "Rowan?" Her voice carried that careful tone she used with difficult clients. "In here." Lana appeared in the kitchen doorway, and I had to admit she still took my breath away. 39 years old, blonde hair perfectly styled, wearing a dress that probably cost more than I made in a week. She looked like success, like someone who belonged in boardrooms and country clubs. "You look tired," she said, setting her purse on the counter. 8 days will do that to a person. I kept my voice level, conversational. "How's your aunt?" Something flickered across her face. "She's better, much better." "Good to hear." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a small black phone, placing it gently on the table between us. "You left this in your car, under the passenger seat." The color drained from her face. "I charged it for you," I continued, my voice still calm. Amazing how much battery these burner phones hold. Also interesting how the GPS history shows it's never been anywhere near Richmond. Lana's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time in years, she was speechless. "The Waterside Motel," I said, reading from a piece of paper. 14 visits in the past 2 months. Always on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Always for exactly 2 hours. "Rowan, I can explain." "Can you?" I stood up, walked to the kitchen counter, and picked up a manila envelope. "Because I've got photos, Lana. Credit card receipts, text messages, even a statement from the desk clerk who remembers you and your companion. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories." Her face went white, then flushed red. "You had me followed?" "I had my wife investigated when she started lying to me." I opened the envelope and spread its contents across the table. Photos of Lana entering the motel with a man I recognized, Victor Daley, her law partner. Receipts from expensive restaurants. Hotel bills from business trips that had nothing to do with business. "You're sick," she whispered. This is stalking." "This is evidence." I gathered the papers back into the envelope. "Evidence that my wife of 20 years has been having an affair with her business partner. Evidence that she's been using our joint accounts to finance her little romance. Evidence that she's been lying to our daughter about where she's been." Lana straightened, and I saw her lawyer mask sliding back into place. "You're unstable, Rowan. I've been talking to people about this, about your behavior." "Have you now?" I smiled, and something in my expression made her take a step back. "That's interesting, because I've been talking to people too. My lawyer, for instance. About joint assets and marital property. About adultery clauses and prenups. We don't have a prenup. No, but we do have a joint mortgage, joint credit cards, joint savings accounts." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. "All of which I've disputed pending our divorce proceedings. Funny how quickly banks freeze assets when there's evidence of fraud." Her eyes widened. "You can't do that." "I already did." I pocketed the phone. You see, Lana, you always underestimated me. Thought I was just some dumb grease monkey who'd never figure it out. But I've been watching, learning, planning. Planning what? I walked past her toward the kitchen door, then paused. You think you're the only one who can play games? You're about to find out how wrong you are. The look on her face, confusion mixed with the first hint of real fear, was worth every sleepless night I'd spent gathering evidence. Welcome home, sweetheart, I said, and walked out of the house. I spent that afternoon at Murphy's bar, nursing a beer and watching the local news on the mounted television. Murphy's was the kind of place where working men came to forget their troubles. Dim lighting, worn bar stools, and a bartender who knew when to listen and when to mind his own business. My phone buzzed constantly. Lana calling, texting, demanding I come home and discuss this like adults. I ignored every message. Around 6, Wes Farrow slid onto the stool next to me. My neighbor was an ex-cop who'd taken early retirement after a back injury. He lived alone in the house next to ours, kept his lawn perfect, and always seemed to know everyone's business. Heard there was some excitement at your place today, he said, ordering a whiskey. News travels fast. Mia was pretty upset when she got home from school. Saw her crying on the front porch. Wes studied my face. Want to talk about it? I'd known Wes for 5 years, ever since he'd moved to the neighborhood. He was the kind of guy who helped neighbors with yard work, who kept an eye on things when people were out of town. Trustworthy. Lana's been having an affair, I said simply. Wes didn't look surprised. Victor Daley? I turned to stare at him. You knew? Suspected. Saw his car in your driveway a few times when you were at work. Saw them together at that new restaurant downtown last month. He sipped his whiskey. Sorry, man. I should have said something. Why didn't you? Wasn't sure. And honestly, I figured you deserved better than to hear it from a neighbor. We sat in silence for a while, watching a baseball game neither of us cared about. What are you going to do? Wes asked finally. I'm going to make them pay. Something in my voice made him look at me sharply. Rowan. Not like that, I said quickly. I'm not going to hurt anyone, but I'm not going to roll over and let them destroy my life without consequences. Wes nodded slowly. If you need anything, information, backup, whatever, you call me. Lana and that partner of hers, they're not good people. What do you mean? Daley's got a reputation around town. This isn't his first married woman, and Lana... He hesitated. Let's just say she's made some enemies in her climb up the ladder. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. Stay away from my family or you'll regret it. VD. I showed the message to Wes, who laughed. Victor Daley threatening you? That's rich. Guy couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag. Maybe not, but he's got money. Lawyers. Connections. So do I, Wes said quietly. 20 years on the force leaves you with friends in useful places. I finished my beer and stood up. I should get home, face the music. You sure? You can crash at my place if things get ugly. Thanks, but I'm not running from my own house. The drive home took 10 minutes, but I spent 20 sitting in my driveway, gathering courage. The house was dark, except for the kitchen light. Lana's car was still there, but I could see her silhouette pacing back and forth behind the curtains. I found her in the living room with Mia, both of them looking like they'd been crying. Legal documents were spread across the coffee table. There he is, Lana said, her voice sharp with anger. The man who's trying to destroy his own family. I'm trying to save what's left of it. By freezing our accounts? By humiliating me? By turning our daughter against her own mother? Mia looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. Dad, how could you? Mom made a mistake, but this is cruel. A mistake? I sat down across from them. Mia, your mother has been lying to both of us for months. She's been stealing from our family to pay for hotel rooms and fancy dinners with another man. It wasn't stealing, Lana snapped. It was our money. Our money that you spent on your affair. I was going to tell you. I was going to ask for a divorce. When? After you'd moved all our assets into accounts I couldn't touch? After you'd convinced Mia that I was the villain? Mia stood up abruptly. I can't listen to this anymore. You're both acting like children. She stormed upstairs, and her bedroom door slammed hard enough to shake the house. Lana and I sat in silence for a moment. You're going to lose her, Lana said quietly. She'll never forgive you for this. Maybe, but at least I'll still have my self-respect. Self-respect? Lana laughed bitterly. You're a 42-year-old marine mechanic living in a house you can barely afford, married to a woman who's outgrown you. What exactly are you so proud of? The words hit like a physical blow, but I kept my expression neutral. I'm proud that I never lied to you, never cheated, never made you feel small or worthless. I never made you feel. Every day, Lana, every time you introduced me as just my husband at your work parties, every time you corrected my grammar in front of your friends, every time you made it clear that you settled for me. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. I didn't mean to make you feel that way. Yes, you did, and that's fine, but now you get to live with the consequences. I stood up and headed for the stairs. Where are you going? To pack a bag. I'll be staying at the marina for a while. Rowan, wait. She followed me upstairs. We can work this out. Go to counseling. Start over. I paused at the bedroom door. With Victor? That's over. I'll end it. Because you got caught. Because I realize what I'm losing. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman I'd loved for half my life, who just admitted she'd outgrown me. You're not losing anything, Lana. You're just finally being honest about what you never wanted in the first place. I packed quickly while she watched from the doorway. Clothes, toiletries, a few books. Everything else could wait. This isn't over, she said as I carried my bag downstairs. You're right, I replied. It's just beginning. The marina office doubled as a small apartment, a fold-out couch, a mini fridge, and a coffee maker that had seen better decades. It wasn't much, but it was mine. More importantly, it was where I could plan without interruption. I'd been there 3 days when the first rumors started circulating. Small towns are like echo chambers. Whispers become conversations. Conversations become gospel truth. By Thursday morning, half the marina knew that Rowan Kerrick's wife was running around with her law partner. Sorry to hear about your troubles, said Pete Kowalski, dropping off his boat keys. Pete owned a successful construction company and had always been friendly. If you need anything... Thanks, Pete. Just taking things one day at a time. That partner of hers, Daley, he's got a reputation, you know. This isn't his first rodeo. So I'm hearing. Wife and I saw them at the Chesapeake Inn last month, acting like teenagers, made us both sick. I filed that information away. The Chesapeake Inn was the fanciest restaurant in town, the kind of place you took someone to impress them, or to celebrate. My phone rang. Wes. You busy? Got something you might want to see. 20 minutes later, he was sitting across from me at the marina office, sliding a manila folder across the desk. What's this? Information about your wife's boyfriend. I opened the folder. Financial records, property deeds, court documents. Victor Daley's life spread out in black and white. How did you get this? Like I said, 20 years on the force. You make friends. Wes pointed to a highlighted section. Look at this. 3 previous affairs, all with married women. 2 of them ended in messy divorces where the husbands got cleaned out. I studied the documents. This one, Jennifer Walsh, she lost her house. Lost everything. Husband found out about the affair, confronted Daley, ended up getting arrested for harassment. Meanwhile, Daley convinced the wife to divorce the husband and marry him instead. What happened to her? Divorced Daley 2 years later. He kept the house, the cars, most of the money. She's working as a secretary now, living in a 1-bedroom apartment. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. He's done this before. Multiple times. It's like a pattern with him. Find an unhappy wife, wine and dine her. Convince her to leave her husband, then take everything and move on to the next one. And Lana doesn't know. I doubt it. Guys like Daley are good at making each woman feel special, like she's the one who's going to change him. I closed the folder and leaned back in my chair. What about his business? The law firm? That's where it gets interesting. Wes pulled out another document. The firm's been struggling. 3 partners left last year, took their clients with them. Daley's been scrambling to keep things afloat. So he needs money. Exactly. And your wife just happens to be married to a guy with a successful marine repair business, a house in a good neighborhood, and 20 years of accumulated assets. The pieces were falling into place, and I didn't like the picture they were forming. There's more, Wes said. I've been watching your house. Daley's been there every day since you left, spending the night. With Mia there. She's been staying at her friend Ashley's house. Haven't seen her home once. So Lana had driven away our daughter to make room for her boyfriend. The woman who'd accused me of destroying the family was the one tearing it apart. My phone buzzed. A text from Lana. Please come home. We need to talk about Mia. I showed the message to Wes. Trap? Probably, but I should check on Mia either way. Want backup? I considered it. Actually, yes, but not obvious. Can you be working in your yard when I show up? Close enough to hear if things get ugly? You got it. An hour later, I pulled into my driveway. Wes was trimming his hedge, close to the property line. Lana's car was there, along with a silver Mercedes I recognized as Daley's. The front door was unlocked. I could hear voices from the kitchen, Lana and a man, talking in low tones. Told you he was smart, Daley was saying. We need to be careful. He's not that smart, just stubborn. Stubborn enough to freeze your accounts. Stubborn enough to hire a private investigator. I moved closer to the kitchen doorway, staying out of sight. The important thing is to get him to sign the divorce papers, Lana said. Once that's done, we can move forward. What about the business, the house? I'll get half of everything. Maybe more, if we play this right. And if he doesn't cooperate? There was a pause. Then we make him cooperate. I'd heard enough. I stepped into the kitchen doorway. Make me cooperate with what? Both of them spun around. Daley was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with the kind of smooth good looks that belonged in magazine ads. He was wearing an expensive suit and holding a cup of coffee like he owned the place. Rowan. Lana's voice was carefully controlled. We were just discussing. I heard what you were discussing. I looked at Daley. You must be Victor. I've heard a lot about you. He extended his hand. All good things, I hope. I ignored the handshake. Actually, no. Mostly about your pattern of seducing married women and stealing their assets. His smile faltered. I don't know what you mean. Jennifer Walsh, Susan Martinez, Rachel Chen. I watched his face change with each name. Should I go on? Lana looked between us. What's he talking about, Victor? Nothing. Just desperate accusations from a bitter husband. Bitter? I laughed. Victor, I'm not bitter. I'm grateful. You've shown me exactly who my wife really is, and you've given me all the ammunition I need to make sure she doesn't profit from her betrayal. You can't prove anything, Daley said, but his voice had lost its confidence. Can't I? I pulled out my phone and showed them both the screen. Funny thing about modern technology. Amazing what you can record with the right equipment. The color drained from both their faces. You recorded us? Lana whispered. I recorded you planning to defraud me out of my assets. I recorded you discussing how to manipulate me into signing papers. I recorded you admitting that this whole thing was a setup. Daley stepped forward. You can't use that. It's illegal to record someone without their consent. In their own home? Actually, it's not. But you'd know that if you were a better lawyer. I pocketed the phone and looked at both of them. Here's what's going to happen. Victor, you're going to leave my house and never come back. Lana, you're going to move out by the weekend, and both of you are going to stay away from me and my daughter. Or what? Daley had found his voice again. Or I release the recording to the State Bar Association, along with information about your previous victims. I also send copies to every major client your firm represents, and to the local newspaper. Lana's face went white. You wouldn't. Try me. Daley grabbed his jacket from the back of a chair. This isn't over, Kerrick. Yes, it is. And if you threaten me again, I'll make sure everyone in town knows exactly what kind of man you are. He stormed out, slamming the front door hard enough to rattle the windows. Lana and I stood in silence for a moment. I never wanted to hurt you, she said finally. But you did, and now you get to live with the consequences. What about Mia? What about her? She needs her mother. She needs a mother who doesn't lie to her, who doesn't choose her boyfriend over her family, who doesn't try to steal from her father. Lana's composure finally cracked, and tears started flowing down her cheeks. I made mistakes, Rowan, but I love you. I love our family. No, you don't. You love the idea of having everything, the husband, the boyfriend, the money, the respect. But you can't have it all, Lana, not anymore. I walked past her toward the front door. Where are you going? Back to the marina. You've got until Sunday to find somewhere else to live. This is my house, too. Not anymore. Check your email. The divorce papers were filed this morning. The look of shock on her face was almost worth 20 years of feeling like I wasn't good enough. Word spread fast in a town like ours. By Friday afternoon, everyone from the grocery store clerk to the bank president knew that Lana Kerrick was getting divorced because of her affair with Victor Daley. I hadn't said a word to anyone, but small towns have their own communication networks. I was replacing a propeller shaft on a fishing boat when my phone rang. Unknown number. Kerrick. This is James Morrison, senior partner at Morrison, Daley and Associates. I need to speak with you. Daley's boss. This should be interesting. What can I do for you, Mr. Morrison? I understand there's been some unpleasantness. involving one of my partners and your wife. That's one way to put it. I'd like to meet with you, discuss the situation. What's to discuss? Damage control, Mr. Kerrick, for everyone involved. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop downtown in an hour. Morrison was older than I'd expected, maybe 60, with gray hair and the kind of expensive suit that screamed success. He was already waiting when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth away from other customers. Mr. Kerrick, thank you for coming. I slid into the booth across from him. You wanted to talk. Straight to the point. I like that. He sipped his coffee. I'll be equally direct. Victor Daley is no longer employed by our firm. That surprised me. Since when? Since this morning, when I learned about his extracurricular activities. The firm can't afford to be associated with that kind of scandal. What about my wife? Mrs. Kerrick was never our employee. She's a solo practitioner who shared office space with us. That arrangement has also been terminated. So both Lana and Victor had lost their professional home in one day. I tried to feel sorry for them, but couldn't quite manage it. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to make sure this situation doesn't escalate further. Bad publicity hurts everyone. What did you have in mind? Morrison reached into his briefcase and pulled out a document. A non-disclosure agreement. You agree not to discuss this matter publicly, and in return, the firm provides a financial settlement. I glanced at the papers without touching them. How much? $50,000. To keep quiet about the fact that your partner seduced my wife and tried to steal my assets? To avoid a prolonged legal battle that would hurt everyone involved? I leaned back in my seat. Mr. Morrison, do you know what I do for a living? You repair boats. I fix things that are broken, and sometimes the only way to fix something is to tear it apart and rebuild it from scratch. I stood up. Your partner broke my marriage. Your former partner, I should say. But I'm not interested in your money. What do you want? I want everyone to know what kind of man Victor Daley is. I want my wife to face the consequences of her choices, and I want my daughter to understand that actions have results. Morrison's face hardened. That's a dangerous path, Mr. Kerrick. Maybe, but it's the right path. I left him sitting there with his unsigned papers and his checkbook. The marina was quiet when I got back, just the sound of water lapping against the hulls and the distant cry of seagulls. I was working on my boat's engine when Wes appeared. Heard Daley got fired. News travels fast. Lana, too. Word is she's scrambling to find new office space. I wiped grease from my hands. Good. There's something else. Mia's been asking around about you, trying to understand what really happened. That got my attention. What kind of asking? She talked to Pete Kowalski's wife yesterday. Asked if it was true that her mother was having an affair. Mrs. Kowalski told her the truth. How'd she take it? Not well, but she's starting to realize that maybe you weren't the villain in this story. My phone buzzed. A text from Mia. Can we talk? I'm at Ashley's house. I showed the message to Wes. Go, he said. She needs her father. Ashley lived in a subdivision about 10 minutes from the marina. I'd known her family for years. Good people, the kind who'd take in a confused teenager without asking too many questions. Mia was waiting on the front porch when I pulled up. She looked older than 17, like the past week had aged her years. Dad. Hey, sweetheart. We sat on the porch swing, not talking for a while. Finally, she broke the silence. Is it true? About Mom and Mr. Daley? Yes. All of it? The hotels, the lying, everything? Yes. She was quiet for another long moment. I thought you were just being mean, trying to hurt her. I was hurt, Mia, but I wasn't trying to be cruel. She told me you were having a breakdown, that you were imagining things. I know. Why didn't you tell me the truth? I looked at my daughter, this young woman who'd inherited her mother's beauty, and, I hoped, something better from me. Because I wanted you to figure it out for yourself. I didn't want to poison you against your mother. But she tried to poison me against you. She was scared. People do stupid things when they're scared. Mia wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I'm sorry, Dad. I said terrible things to you. You were protecting your mother. That's what good daughters do. Even when their mothers don't deserve it. I put my arm around her shoulders. Especially then. We sat in comfortable silence as the sun set behind the trees. What happens now? She asked. Now we figure out how to be a family again. Just the two of us. What about Mom? Your mother made her choices. Now she has to live with them. Do you hate her? I considered the question. Did I hate Lana? Or was it something else? Disappointment? Betrayal? The grief of watching someone you loved reveal themselves to be someone you didn't recognize? No, I said finally. I don't hate her, but I don't trust her anymore, and I won't let her hurt us again. Mia nodded. Can I come home? I mean, to wherever you're living now? The marina's not much, but there's a couch. I don't care. I just want to be with my dad. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. The annual Chesapeake Maritime Festival was the biggest event of the year in our town. 3 days of boat races, seafood vendors, and live music, culminating in a Saturday night dinner and auction at the high school auditorium. Everyone attended, business owners, fishermen, retirees, families. It was the kind of community gathering where reputations were made and destroyed. I hadn't planned to go. Mia and I had been living at the marina for 2 weeks, settling into a routine that worked for both of us. She helped me with paperwork in the afternoons. I helped her with college applications in the evenings. It wasn't the life either of us had expected, but it was honest. You should go to the festival, Wes said, stopping by the marina office on Friday afternoon. Show your face. Let people see you're not hiding. I'm not hiding. Then prove it. Mia looked up from her homework. He's right, Dad. We should go. Your mother will be there. So, we have just as much right to be there as she does. I considered it. Lana and Victor would probably attend. They'd want to present a united front, show the town they weren't ashamed of their relationship. The thought of seeing them together still stung, but maybe it was time to stop avoiding confrontation. All right, I said. We'll go. Saturday evening, Mia and I dressed up for the first time in weeks. She wore a blue dress that made her look sophisticated and grown up. I put on my best suit, the one I'd worn to weddings and funerals for the past decade. The high school auditorium was packed, round tables filling the gymnasium floor while a small stage hosted the evening's speakers. The smell of crab cakes and beer mixed with perfume and aftershave. I recognized most of the faces. This was my town, these were my people. There's Mom, Mia said quietly. I followed her gaze to a table near the front. Lana sat with Victor, both of them dressed like they were attending a charity gala in the city. She looked beautiful and confident, laughing at something Victor whispered in her ear. You okay? Mia asked. I'm fine. We found seats at a table with Pete Kowalski and his wife, along with a few other marina regulars. The conversation was friendly but careful. Everyone knew about the divorce, but nobody wanted to be the first to bring it up. The evening proceeded normally through dinner and the first few auction items. Local businesses donated services, artwork, and vacation packages, while the auctioneer kept the mood light with jokes and gentle ribbing of the bidders. Then Mayor Williams took the microphone for his annual State of the Community address. And that's why I'm proud to say that our town continues to thrive because of people who embody our values of honesty, hard work, and integrity. I was only half listening until I heard my name. Rowan Kerrick, whose marine repair business has been a cornerstone of our waterfront for over 15 years. Polite applause. I nodded acknowledgement, feeling embarrassed by the attention. Rowan represents the best of what makes our community strong, the mayor continued. Family values, honest business practices, and the kind of character that... Actually, I'd like to say something about character. The voice came from the back of the room. Victor Daley stood up, straightening his jacket with theatrical precision. The auditorium went quiet. Mayor Williams looked confused. I'm sorry, but this isn't really the time for... I think it's exactly the time, Victor said, walking toward the stage. Since we're talking about character and family values, maybe we should discuss what those words really mean. I felt every eye in the room shift between Victor, me, and Lana. This was it, the public confrontation I'd been dreading. Victor reached the stage and held out his hand for the microphone. Mayor Williams, clearly uncomfortable, handed it over. Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Victor Daley. I'm a lawyer, and until recently, I was a partner in one of this town's most respected law firms. He paused for effect, scanning the crowd. I'm also the man who's been having a relationship with Lana Kerrick. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the audience. Mia grabbed my arm. Now I know what you're thinking, Victor continued. Here's the homewrecker, the man who destroyed a marriage. And you're right. I did pursue a married woman. I did contribute to the end of a 20-year marriage. But I want you to understand why. I started to stand up, but Mia pulled me back down. Let him talk, Dad. Let him hang himself. Victor was warming to his theme. Lana Kerrick is an extraordinary woman. Brilliant, accomplished, successful. She built a thriving law practice from nothing. She's respected by her peers and admired by her clients. And for 20 years, she was trapped in a marriage with a man who couldn't appreciate her. The auditorium was silent now. Rowan Kerrick may be a decent mechanic, but he's also a small-minded, controlling husband who couldn't handle being married to a woman more successful than himself. When Lana finally found the courage to seek happiness elsewhere, he responded with vindictive cruelty. Victor's voice rose with passion. He hired private investigators to stalk his own wife. He froze their joint accounts to punish her financially. He's been spreading lies and rumors to destroy her reputation and mine. Is this the kind of character we want to celebrate? I could feel hundreds of eyes on me, waiting for my response. Part of me wanted to slink out of the auditorium and disappear, but a larger part, the part that had been building for weeks, was tired of being painted as the villain. I stood up. May I respond to that? Victor looked surprised, but handed over the microphone. I walked to the stage, my heart pounding. Public speaking had never been my strong suit, but some things needed to be said. Thank you, Victor. That was illuminating. I looked out at the crowd, seeing faces I'd known for years. Victor's right about a few things. I did hire a private investigator, I did freeze our joint accounts, and I have been talking to people about what happened to my marriage. I paused, gathering my thoughts. But let me tell you what Victor didn't mention. He didn't tell you that this is the 4th time he's had an affair with a married woman. He didn't tell you that his previous victims all ended up divorced and financially ruined while he moved on to his next target. Victor's face went red. That's not... He didn't tell you that he and my wife were planning to manipulate me into signing divorce papers that would have given her most of our assets. I know this because I recorded them discussing it. Murmurs of surprise from the audience. He didn't tell you that they were meeting in hotel rooms twice a week for months, using money from our joint accounts to pay for their romantic getaways. He didn't tell you that my wife lied to our daughter about where she was going, forcing me to explain to a 17-year-old girl why her mother was never home anymore. I looked directly at Lana, who was staring at the table. Victor talks about character and family values. Let me tell you what I think those words mean. Character means keeping your promises, even when it's hard. It means being honest with the people you love, even when the truth is uncomfortable. It means taking responsibility for your mistakes instead of blaming everyone else. The auditorium was completely silent now. Family values means putting your children first. It means not forcing them to choose sides in your personal drama. It means showing them, through your actions, what integrity looks like. I handed the microphone back to Victor, who looked like he wanted to disappear. I'm not perfect, I continued. I made mistakes in my marriage, but I never lied to my wife. I never cheated on her, and I never tried to steal from her. I walked back to my table, sat down next to Mia, and waited for the explosion. It came immediately. Victor grabbed the microphone again. This is exactly what I'm talking about. His composure was completely gone now. Self-righteous, sanctimonious. Sit down, Victor. The voice came from James Morrison, who was standing at a table near the front. Sit down and stop embarrassing yourself. Victor looked around the auditorium, finally seeming to realize that the crowd wasn't on his side. He set the microphone down and walked quickly toward the exit, his face burning with humiliation. Lana followed him, her head down, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Mayor Williams retook the stage, looking shaken. Well, that was unexpected. Perhaps we should move on to the next auction item. But the evening was effectively over. People were already standing up, gathering their things, whispering among themselves. Dad. Mia's voice was soft. That was amazing. I looked around the auditorium, seeing nods of approval from some faces, curiosity from others. Pete Kowalski clapped me on the shoulder. About time someone called out that snake, he said. Wes appeared at our table. Hell of a speech, Rowan. Think I went too far? I think you went exactly far enough. As we walked to the parking lot, I felt lighter than I had in months. The truth was out there now, for better or worse. No more secrets, no more lies, no more pretending everything was fine. What happens now? Mia asked as we got in the truck. I started the engine and looked back at the high school, where groups of people were still standing around talking, processing what they'd witnessed. Now we go home, I said. And we start over. Just the two of us? Just the two of us. As we drove through town toward the marina, I realized that for the first time in years, I felt like I knew exactly who I was and what I wanted. It had taken losing everything to find myself again, but maybe that was the point. Maybe sometimes you have to tear something apart completely before you can rebuild it into something better. The marina was quiet when we got home, just the gentle sound of water against the hulls and the distant cry of nightbirds. Mia went inside to get ready for bed while I stood on the dock, looking out at the dark water. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You won tonight, but this isn't over. I deleted the message without responding. Victor could make all the threats he wanted. I wasn't afraid anymore. Another message, this one from Lana. I'm sorry, Rowan, for everything. I stared at those words for a long time, then deleted that message too. Some apologies come too late to matter.